Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
All right, so are you ready to just dive right into this case?
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to have you kind of questioning what you think you know about all these peaceful small towns.
Yeah.
We're headed to Willow Bank, New York,
Okay.
where a murder mystery is about to unfold.
Sounds good.
So we've got all the elements of like a classic whodunit here.
Yeah.
We've got a seemingly idyllic town with a really dark underbelly.
I love that.
A cast of characters that have their own secrets and motives.
Of course. Of course.
And a murder that will shock this community.
Oh, I bet.
The victim is James Hargrove.
Okay.
He's a reclusive artist, and let me tell you,
Okay.
the details surrounding his death are not for the faint of heart.
All right.
He was found in his studio surrounded by these really eerie paintings.
Interesting.
Almost like he was trying to tell a story through his art.
Well, that's how it always is, right?
Yeah.
Art imitates life, or sometimes foreshadows it.
Yes.
I think these paintings, though, are going to be a key element in this whole investigation.
For sure. You know, they're depicting these figures, and they resemble the townsfolk,
Yeah.
but they're distorted.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah, so it's going to add a whole layer of symbolism and intrigue to the case, I think.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And then there's Catherine Green. We'll call her Cat.
Cat. Okay.
She's a history professor, and she's obsessed with Willow Bank's past.
Okay.
It's almost like she was expecting something like this to happen.
Interesting. Okay.
And to make things even more complicated, her sister Miriam is back.
Okay.
Everybody calls her Mimi.
Maybe.
So Mimi has just returned home. The timing is very curious, right?
Yeah.
Adds a whole layer of complexity to the family dynamic,
Sure.
especially considering that Kat's obsessed with the town's history.
Right.
Oh, and we can't forget about Detective Carl Mercer.
Okay.
He's the one who's been tasked with untangling this whole mess.
All right.
But
What?
here's where things get really interesting. A storm hits Willowbank, and it really sets the stage for this murder. Okay, so the storm's not just like a backdrop, it's like
Yeah.
a character.
Exactly. It amps up the tension. It isolates the community.
Oh, wow.
It creates this atmosphere of unease.
Spooky.
Yeah. It's like
Okay.
something out of a Gothic novel.
I love it.
And just before the storm hits,
Okay.
Kat is hosting a book club meeting.
A book club, all right.
And guess what they're discussing?
What's that?
Local folklore,
Okay.
including tales surrounding James Hargrove's estate.
So this book club meeting, I think, is going to be really important
For sure.
because it kind of lays the groundwork for the suspicion and fear surrounding Hargrove.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unease as they're discussing his intentions to reveal a controversial piece of local history.
Uh-huh.
So there's already some baggage there
Yes, there is.
before the murder even happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the next morning, a local teenager finds Hargrove's body. He's not just dead.
Oh.
The scene is really gruesome. He's surrounded by those paintings that we talked about.
Okay.
Those disturbing figures that look like the townsfolk.
Yeah.
And he died from blunt force trauma to the head.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So the crime scene is very disturbing, right?
Yeah.
The imagery is crazy.
Very vivid.
And it's a brutal murder.
Yeah.
And the distorted figures in the paintings,
Right.
they immediately raise questions.
Like what?
Are they symbolic? Are they clues? Do they point to, like, a motive or a specific suspect?
Okay, so we've got to figure out who did it.
Right.
All right.
So our potential suspects are, first up, we've got Evelyn Hargrove.
Okay.
She's James's niece, but they were estranged.
Okay.
She's got financial woes. She's got a history of conflict with her uncle.
So she's got motive. Okay.
Yeah, screams motive to me.
Financial strain, family conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, that definitely puts her high on the list.
Uh-huh.
But we can't jump to conclusions yet.
Right.
We've got to consider everybody. There are
Yeah.
others who might have wanted him gone.
Right, like Henry Eastman.
Okay.
He's a disgruntled handyman. He was feuding with James over unpaid bills.
Ah, so Eastman's resentful.
Yes.
Okay. And his job gives him access to tools, potential weapons.
Exactly.
So the investigators are going to need to look into his alibi, see if anybody can put him at the crime scene
Yeah, for sure.
during the storm.
And we can't forget about Laura Mitchell.
Go.
She's a rival professor.
Okay.
James publicly criticized her for her art proposal.
Oh, interesting.
They taught at the same college,
Okay.
competed for the same grants.
Uh-huh.
There was no secret. There was bad blood between them.
Yeah, professional rivalry, public humiliation.
Yes,
These can be strong motives.
definitely.
So the detectives are going to have to look into the nature of their rivalry.
Yeah.
See if there are any past incidents. See if she had the opportunity and the means to do it.
So we've got a lot of suspects here.
Maybe we
They each have their own reasons to want James gone.
Yeah.
But the forensic evidence just adds another layer of complexity here.
Oh, how so?
So the forensic evidence, it doesn't fit neatly with any of our assumptions.
Okay.
Hair strands were found at the crime scene, but they don't match any of our suspects.
Interesting.
And get this, there are fingerprints
Okay.
belonging to both Henry Eastman and Laura Mitchell.
Both of them.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so now we have even more questions.
Yeah.
What were they both doing there? Did they
Yeah.
work together?
It's
Possible that they were there, innocently.
Right.
But the investigators are going to have to look at their alibis
Yes.
and see if they can find a connection to the victim
Yeah.
that maybe we haven't uncovered yet.
Okay, so Detective Mercer starts interviewing the suspects, right?
Right.
And their stories are all over the place.
Okay.
Evelyn, she claims she was taking care of her sick mother during the storm, but her alibi is shaky.
So her alibi is really important. If
Yeah.
they can find holes in her story,
Yes.
it would definitely make her look more suspicious.
For sure.
Okay.
And then there's Henry.
Okay.
His whereabouts during the storm are questionable. Some neighbors back him up, but others say they saw him somewhere else entirely.
Oh, that's tricky.
I know, right?
Conflicting witness testimonies. Always fun.
Yeah, it really raises the stakes.
Yeah.
It introduces doubt,
Yeah.
and it makes the detectives really have to work hard to figure out the truth.
Piece it all together.
Yes.
From all these different accounts.
And Laura, she swears she never went near James's house that night, but her fingerprints are there.
Oh, this is where motive and opportunity really come together.
Yes.
If her fingerprints are there, it really raises questions about her involvement.
For sure.
Especially given how much they didn't like each other.
Yeah. Feels like everyone's hiding something.
Yeah, it does.
But just as Detective Mercer thinks he's got it figured out, DNA analysis reveals those mystery hair strands belong to, wait for it,
Okay.
Sammy Sketch Sullivan.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
What a twist.
So Sketch is a transient artist with a past grudge against James.
So he kind of faded into the background.
Yeah.
But now he's front and center.
Yes.
All right.
He's kind of a wild card. He was mentored by James years ago,
Okay.
but their relationship went sour after James publicly criticized Sketch's artwork.
Oh.
And Sketch disappeared. Nobody had seen him in Willowbank for years.
It's always someone from the past, isn't it?
It really is.
Adds a whole new layer of complexity.
Yes.
Got to reevaluate all our assumptions now.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Detective Mercer tracks down Sketch, who's living on the outskirts of town. And it's rough. He's living a rough life.
This meeting with Sketch is going to be crucial.
Oh, yeah.
They have to approach him carefully,
Yeah.
gauge his demeanor, look for inconsistencies,
Yeah.
see if he's lying
Yeah.
about what happened that night.
Exactly. So under intense questioning from Mercer, Sketch cracks.
He confesses.
He does, but he claims it was an accident.
A confession, even if it's accidental, is a big deal.
It is.
But they're going to have to corroborate his story.
Right.
With the evidence, see if it all lines up.
Yes.
Okay.
So he says he went to James's studio that night to confront him about the criticism.
Okay.
And things escalated. They got into it.
Right.
And James ended up dead.
So they're going to be looking for any sign that this was planned.
For sure.
Did he go there meaning to hurt him?
Right.
Or was it really an accident?
Yeah.
They'll have to check the evidence.
Yes.
To see if it all matches up.
So with this confession, Detective Mercer makes the arrest.
Okay.
And the community is shocked.
I bet.
It wasn't the niece. It wasn't the rival professor. It wasn't even the handyman.
Right.
It was this ghost from the past.
Wow.
A forgotten artist.
Yeah.
Seeking revenge.
Sometimes it really is the quiet ones,
I know, it's crazy.
The ones lurking in the shadows that have these resentments that just grow and grow over time.
And then they just...
explode.
Yes.
Wow.
But the story doesn't end there. The arrest is just the beginning.
Of course.
This is another chapter. One that will force Willowbank to confront its demons.
Oh, yeah.
And deal with the consequences of this whole thing.
This murder has really impacted everyone.
Oh, for sure.
It's exposed vulnerabilities, challenged assumptions.
Yes.
They have to figure out who they can trust and what they believe.
Yeah.
What a mess.
I know, Sketch is behind bars, but I don't think the people of Willowbank are really over this.
Oh, no. This murder has really shaken them up.
Yeah, it's ripped apart their sense of security, right?
Yeah.
They're being forced to confront this darkness that's been lurking there the whole time.
It really makes you wonder how this could happen in a town like this, you know?
I know.
And the way this whole case unfolds is fascinating, don't you think?
Yeah, it's not like a typical whodunit.
No, not at all.
You think you have all the clues,
Right.
but then that DNA evidence,
It changes everything.
it really does, and it leads to someone nobody expected.
Yeah, it's like you think you have all the pieces to the puzzle, and then you realize there's this one missing piece that changes the whole picture.
Exactly.
And that missing piece is Sammy Sketch Sullivan.
Right, another artist.
Yeah, just like James.
But he's been struggling,
Yeah.
living on the edge of things,
Haunted by rejection.
by criticism.
Yeah, by his former mentor, no less.
You could just feel the resentment, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just simmering there all that time until it just exploded.
Yeah, it's like a pressure cooker that finally blows its top.
And that confrontation with James was that moment.
It really makes you think about the art world, right? All that competition. And those critiques can feel like personal attacks.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for someone like Sketch, with his struggles and insecurities.
Right.
It all built up to this resentment.
And then tragedy.
Tragic consequences.
So let's go back to that night.
Okay.
Sketch goes to James's studio.
Right.
Probably to confront him.
About those critiques, yeah.
But what actually happened?
Well, the confession shed some light on it. When Detective Mercer questioned him, Sketch tried to deny it all at first.
Really?
Oh, yeah, but the evidence was stacking up against him.
Of course.
And finally, he broke down.
What did he say?
Well, he described this really heated argument with James.
Okay.
You see, Sketch had gone there to confront James about his new art collection.
Ooh.
The one with those unsettling portraits of the townsfolk.
Right.
Sketch felt like James was mocking them.
What?
Exposing their secrets through his art.
So it wasn't just about Sketch feeling slighted.
No, it was deeper than that.
He felt like James had betrayed the whole town.
Exactly. He felt like James was using his art to hurt them, not heal them.
And that betrayal, along with Sketch's own struggles as an artist,
It all fueled his anger.
it's understandable.
During the argument, James, always trying to provoke, said some really dismissive things about Sketch's art.
Oh, I can imagine that hurt.
Especially after Sketch had gone to him for mentorship, you know?
Yeah, to be rejected like that.
It was the last straw for Sketch.
He snapped.
He did. Overwhelmed with rage and frustration, he just lashed out.
Oh, wow.
He hit James with a heavy object, turned out to be a sculpture he was working on.
Ironic.
It was, in a way, a moment of pure fury.
And James died instantly.
It was a fatal blow, yes, and Sketch, horrified by what he'd done.
Oh, yeah, he probably panicked.
He fled, leaving James there, surrounded by his paintings.
It's such a haunting scene, isn't it?
It really is James, the man who exposed secrets.
Lying dead among them.
And Sketch, driven to violence by the critiques that fuel the art world.
It's a tragedy all around, but we have to remember.
Yes, of course.
Sketch's actions had consequences.
Absolutely. He took a life, and there has to be justice for that.
But his confession does give us some answers.
It does. It helps us understand his motive, why he did it.
And it opens up this whole conversation about art, right?
Yes, its role in society, its power, the responsibility that comes with it.
It's something Willowbank is still grappling with.
Yeah. Trying to reconcile the beauty of art with the darkness it can also hold.
And that brings us back to the question, can a town really heal after something like this?
It's a question that lingers, like the smell of paint in James's studio.
Exactly. But let's look at how the community reacted to Sketch's arrest.
Okay.
How did they deal with this unexpected turn of events?
Well, there was shock, disbelief.
Of course.
But also a hint of relief.
Really?
Some people, those who knew Sketch, felt sympathy for him.
Okay.
They remembered him as this troubled but talented artist. Someone who had been misunderstood, ostracized.
Tortured artist.
Exactly, and they felt like his actions were a product of his circumstances.
Right. That he was failed by the system.
And if he had gotten support,
This could have been avoided.
it's a valid point, and it's something Kat Green is advocating for.
But there were others who felt differently.
Oh yes, those who saw Sketch as a villain, plain and simple.
They couldn't forgive him.
No matter what his motives were.
They wanted him punished.
Absolutely, they wanted justice for James.
And for them, anything less than that.
Would be a betrayal.
They saw James as a pillar of the community.
A visionary.
So there's this sense of vindication for them,
That James finally got what he deserved.
even if it wasn't how they expected.
It's a complicated reaction.
It really is.
Reflecting the divisions within the town.
And those divisions were just amplified by the upcoming trial.
Oh, absolutely.
The town had to relive it all.
And decide Sketch's fate.
The trial became this microcosm of the town itself.
A battleground for these conflicting views on art.
Justice, forgiveness.
It's a compelling narrative.
It is. And it's one we'll explore more as we continue our deep dive into this case.
Yes, we'll delve into the trial, the aftermath, and the lasting impact on Willowbank.
The trial, I mean, it was more than just a legal thing, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Because like Willowbank had to look in the mirror and confront who they were.
Yeah, their values.
Yeah.
Everything.
And those questions that James Hargrove's murder raised. Were they a community that nurtured artists or one that cast them aside?
It really forced them to look at how they treat people who are different.
Yeah.
Who challenge them, who don't fit in, you know?
And the courtroom, it was like this battleground.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For all these different viewpoints.
Right.
You had Sketch's supporters.
Right.
They saw him as a victim.
Of circumstance. A talented artist.
And driven to do what he did.
By a system that failed him.
They wanted leniency.
Yeah, rehabilitation over punishment.
They talked about his mental state.
His history, his trauma.
The lack of support.
As an artist.
They said James's rejection really messed him up.
They saw it as a cry for help.
But then you had the other side.
Right.
Who saw him as a cold-blooded killer.
Someone who had to be held accountable.
They wanted justice for James.
They said he was a pillar of the community.
A visionary.
And for them, anything less than a harsh sentence
would be a betrayal.
James's memory.
And they focused on how brutal it was.
Yeah. The loss for his loved ones.
Yeah, the pain he caused.
It was tough.
The prosecution came in strong.
Oh.
Laid out all the evidence.
The confession.
Painted him as someone with intent.
No remorse.
They said it was premeditated.
Years of resentment.
That's what led him to James's studio that night.
They didn't hold back.
But the defense, they wanted to show Sketch as a human being.
They brought in people who knew him.
Talked about his talent.
His gentle nature.
His struggles.
They wanted to show he wasn't a monster.
But someone who had been through a lot.
Rushed to that breaking point.
It was like watching two different movies.
In the same room.
And the jury had to decide which one to believe.
Which story was true.
What a heavy decision.
They had to weigh the evidence.
With testimonies.
Arguments.
Mental health.
Justice.
It was a lot to handle.
And their decision would impact everything.
Sketch's life.
Willowbank's future.
Yeah.
And after days...
They came back. Slaughter.
So not murder, but he still took a life.
And there were consequences.
It was a compromise.
Yeah, acknowledged the crime.
But also considered his state of mind.
Complicated.
No easy answers.
And Sketch got a long sentence.
But the judge recommended mental health treatment.
This shows how things are changing.
Yeah, punishment isn't always enough.
We have to think about rehabilitation.
Healing.
It's about looking at the whole picture.
Right.
So the trial's over, case closed.
Well, legally, yes.
But Willowbank.
Oh, they're just starting to heal.
The scars run deep.
Yeah, it's going to take time.
Those divisions.
And resentments.
What about James's estate?
Oh, yeah.
Those controversial paintings.
That sparked so much debate.
Some said they were important.
A legacy?
Display them in a museum.
A reminder.
A Willowbank story.
Art's power.
Others were horrified.
Too disturbing.
They wanted them gone.
Erased.
Can we separate the art from the artist?
That's the question, isn't it?
So what happened?
They found a compromise.
They did.
They donated them to an art therapy program.
That's actually perfect.
It honors his talent.
And the healing power of art.
Exactly.
On Willowbank.
They started to rebuild.
Slowly.
Tentatively.
But they learned from it all.
Found a new purpose.
And Kat.
She became a force for change.
Yeah. All that pain.
Anger.
She turned it into action.
Mental health awareness.
Especially for artists.
She knew what was missing.
That support.
She didn't want this to happen again.
She brought people together.
Shared their stories.
Hope for the future.
She became a symbol.
Of resilience.
Yeah. Amazing.
So what's the takeaway here?
It makes you realize that every town has its secrets.
Yeah.
Its darkness.
We often ignore it.
It challenges us to look at our own biases.
How we treat those who are different.
But in the end, it's a story about hope.
Redemption.
The power of community.
James Hargrove's legacy.
It's more than just art.
It's about the conversations.
The change.
A more just world.
A compassionate world.
And that's the end of our deep dive.
Into the inheritance of silence.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope it gave you something to think about.
And maybe a new perspective on things.
Life, the human spirit.
Thanks for listening.